My apologies for having to cut short Mr. Shadano Gupta's fascinating session. I think we could have gone on and on. But I must tell you that when I was asked to come and speak here by my friend Chaguna, I had no idea that I would be facing an audience like this. I'm overawed by seeing such speakers, authors, writers, celebrities, all sitting over here. And more importantly, it's difficult to speak when my husband is here. I speak to you as a veteran army officer. I'm a veteran, age 81. I was in the army. I was a captain in the army in 1968. At that time, there were women only in the Army Medical Corps, the Army Dental Corps, and the Military Nursing Services. It's only after 92 that we inducted women in all the services in Army, Navy, and the Air Force. And over the years, you've seen them go from strength to strength. First we had them in very few branches, the JAG branch and the Education branch, and then Ordnance and the ASC, and later we inducted them into engineers and signals, and now even the artillery. But and of course these women have done a tremendous job in the three services, and now we have, even in the medical corps, we have lieutenant generals. But the first two lieutenant general women officers were from my course. That is when I started. I'll just share a few snippets with you because most of you don't know what the army was at that time. I'll speak about a young lady doctor who passed out of her medical college, joined the army, and after doing her training, was posted to the military hospital at Dehradun. The glamour of the uniform, the love of the nation, and her wanting to do something for the nation meant a great deal to her. She was happy to be posted in a busy hospital like the military hospital at Dehradun, and she gave it her best. She worked cheerfully, she worked hard, and she made lots of friends with all her patients and her colleagues. She had a commanding officer who was humane, who was very kind, who helped all of them. He was appreciative of all the work that they did, and they gave him a lot of support. He gave everyone a lot of help, and they were all very appreciative of him. One day, this lady doctor walked to her commanding officer and said, "Sir, I want to get married." He said, "What? Married now? So soon?" So she said, "Yes." He said, "Who are you marrying?" She said, an army officer from the infantry." He said, "Oh, good God, what on earth are you doing? Do you know what you've let yourself in for? Are you going to marry somebody who's going to be at the border areas all his life? Are you prepared to stay alone? Are you prepared to become a God's widow?" He kept on asking her, and then he stopped and he said, "And which regiment is he from?" So she gave the answer, and he just shook his head regretfully. He said, "Well, I wish you luck." And he was not able to attend the wedding of that lady doctor. He went home on a spot of leave to Bangalore, and he and his wife came back with a gift for the doctor, and she had that gift in her house for all these years. Then the lady moved on. She shifted jobs. She shifted jobs from one to another. And all that time she managed her home with great success, a professional job and things at home. She managed to do everything well. All the time keeping in mind the requirements of doing something for her husband's organization. And during that period, her husband, as expected, moved from the northeast to Jammu and Kashmir, and from Jammu and Kashmir back to the east, and she was managing everything on her own. Many years passed. 30 years later, she happened to be in Bangalore. She realized that her old commanding officer was in Bangalore. So with some difficulty, she located his telephone number and she rang up. She said, "Sir, were you in the military hospital in Dehradun in 1968? He said, "Yes." She said, "Were you the commanding officer over there?" He said, "Yes," a little quizzical. And she had expected a frail voice because she now thought that the commanding officer over 80 years old. But here was a loud, clear voice. So he was wondering why she's asking. She said, "Sir, do you remember a young lady doctor who got married to an infantry officer while you were the commanding officer?" She said, Yes, of course I remember. "And how is she? And how is her husband?" I wonder, sir, if you know that that infantry officer is today the chief of the army staff. So that was my story and how I moved from there, from a young officer in the army to a civil organization like the Oil and Natural Gas Commission, until I became the wife of the chief and was the president of the Army Wives Welfare Association. I'll come to another incident. Soon after she was married, the next year, she got married in 68, so 1969 April, she was to come on annual leave to visit her husband. She was to come on leave. So she was given a warrant, as is given by the army, and with that warrant, she came to the railway station and they gave her the check soldier ticket and the counterfoil of the warrant. So that was it. She came home to be welcomed by her husband at the station, and 2 months, every day of 2 months, flew in joy abandoned of enjoying the time she's spending with her husband. Then it was time for her to go back. So her husband was taking her to the railway station. So he said, "Do you have your ticket?" She said, "Ticket? What ticket? I don't have any ticket. I have only the counterfoil of the warrant that I have." So he said, "No, but what about the check soldier ticket? You're supposed to have that." She thought hard. And then she realized that 2 months ago, she had handed over the ticket to the ticket checker at the railway station, just in the excitement of meeting her husband, and she handed over that check soldier ticket because nobody had told her she was to keep that for two months. So so nothing could be done now. So we walked to the train, and her ticket was reserved, as was the ticket number and the warrant number. It was all there. The ticket checker came and he checked everything, tallied everything, and he went away. So a big sigh of relief, and I felt I slept very peacefully without any knowledge of the impending doom. Next morning at Raiwala, just an hour before I was to reach my home station, that was Dehradun, a whole team of railway ticket checkers swarmed onto the train. So they came around, they asked me. No, as usual, I looked around, I pulled out that much folded warrant paper and I gave it to them. So they said, "No, this is not it. Where is the ticket?" Then they said, "Ma'am, this will not do. There's a mobile court waiting outside and the district magistrate is over there. so you will have to go and face it. Goodness, with my legs shaking and my mouth dry, I walked out trying to appear really confident. I walked over to the district magistrate and I pulled out my identity card and I said, I am Captain Ranjana Malik and this is my identity card. I am entitled to travel on a free railway warrant, but I misplaced the ticket. So he just glanced at me. He said, it doesn't matter. We are very sorry for having troubling you and you go back to the train. So I walked back to the train, to my compartment. But let me tell you, there were 100+ eyes peering out of all the compartments in the train, trying to see who this delinquent captain was. So that was, now I laugh about it, but at that time I was really mortified. Coming to another occasion, when after my honeymoon, we were going back to the station and I was going back to resume duty. So my mother-in-law said, she told my husband, she's going back for the first time, I think it would be better if you accompanied her. So I had my ticket and reservation as Captain Ranjana Malik. He had his ticket as an appointee, as Major Malik. And there was this coupe served in my name reserved. But the conductor, he would not let him enter my coupe. He said, you have two different names. So there's no amount of telling him that we were married. There used to be no cell phones with pictures to show, no certificates to show. And so, grown and more, we had to travel into different compartments. And I'll go back to this change of name and how important it is a little later, after my next episode. After Dehradun, my next posting was Military Hospital, Jabalpur. I came there in December '69 after having spent 18 months in Dehradun. A lovely little home, a 3-room barrack with a small postage stamp size lawn, blazing with flowers. As I say, neighbor's envy and owner's pride, the by far. And that was my first home that I set up. My little son was born there. He lisped his first words. He took his first steps over there. And where was my husband? He was in Mizoram. Because we had got posted together to Jabalpur, but 3 months out on collective training, then 3 months in Dehradun to conduct the pre-staff course, and at the end of it, he was moved out to Mizoram. One fine day in April '71, I got a summons from the court in Dehradun asking me to appear in the court. Now you know what army is like. One staff officer in the headquarters of Madras, Bihar and Orissa, that is what is called MPPNO area. One staff officer sitting there sent a message to the Dehradun court that officer cannot be spared due to exigencies of service. So promptly came a reply that this Soldiers Litigation Act number so-and-so is not applicable in the case of criminal cases. So I was to go as an expert medical witness for this case. So after a few days, another date was fixed. The court sent me another date. And lo and behold, my son, who was just a year old, he fell sick. He was in the hospital, he was admitted in the hospital, and with him, I was admitted in the hospital. So we sent a message to the court that the duration of stay will be likely 10 days. So they said, okay. Then they sent another summons. Now, as would happen in those days where there's no internet or communication, no WhatsApp, there was another officer in the headquarters of MPBNO area. So on his own, he sent back another reply, officer cannot be spared due to exigencies of service. And next thing that happened was the headquarter BNO area got a telegram. The commanding officer of my hospital got a telegram. And I got a telegram to say that a warrant of arrest for the officer is being issued. All hell broke loose in the town, in the cantonment. The GOC was livid. He said, how could this happen? And who did it? And who's responsible? And don't ask me, I was shivering in my boots. I was having dreams of being carted away with handcuffs. I removed the name board from my gate. Let that name board not be there. And there was no way I could communicate with my husband. He was in Mizoram. The only thing is a letter which takes 23 to 25 days to get from where I am to where he is, and another 25 days to get a reply from him. So there was no way I could communicate, and I was terrified. I assure you I was terrified. But then the office wasn't working extra time, and if they had their way, they would have picked me up and taken me to Dehradun. So the booking was done for my son, for the maid, for my infant son, and myself, and we reached Dehradun. I was supposed to reach the court at a particular time, और हम uniform वगैरह पहन के very smartly I landed up in the courtroom much ahead of time. तो वहाँ पे झाड़ू ही लग रहा था. They were all sweeping the place. So but some people came running to me. They said, "Thank God you have come." क्योंकि यहाँ पे तो बड़ी चर्चा हो रही है कि why can't we take action against army officers for contempt of court? अच्छा हुआ आप आ गए. So I looked around. I said, "How long is this going to take?" Then I found one clerk sitting there. I said, "Can I have a look at those files?" Because now this case had taken place 2.5 years ago. So he produced the file. That helped me to go through that. It was about a supervisor, construction supervisor in the ordnance factory, who had been brutally attacked by people working under him. I mean, literally his skin and scalp was like mincemeat. You know, they had just carved up his scalp everywhere. So I happened to be the duty medical officer that day. So he was brought in an ambulance from Raipur hospital and brought to the military hospital in Dehradun. And so they rang me up. I said, "Please send them to the operation theatre because I'm here." So we treated him, and after that he stayed in my ward for quite a long time while he was recovering. Now they wanted me to give an expert witness, and I was then able to see what I had reported to the police, what all had happened to him and how his scalp had been, we had sewed up the whole bit of, every time you lifted up a piece of skin on the scalp, you didn't know whether to go this way or that way. It was so bad. Then I was told that the district magistrate wants to see you. So I walked to his room. I assure you my mouth was dry. My legs were, I was shivering. My knees were knocking against each other. So I went to him. So the district magistrate says, "But tell me, why didn't you come for so long?" So I said, "Sir, this is my hometown. I would have come here at the first time. My widowed mother lives over here and she lives alone. I would have come at the drop of a hat. But as an army officer, unless I'm given permission by the authorities, I cannot come." So he was very kind. He says, "You know, I had issued the warrant of arrest. I went home and I was to go on a spot of leave. Then I thought about it. I rang them up and said, please hold that warrant of arrest for some time, give her another date. Thank God for that. And then of course, the questioning took place in the court. I think I was very smart as I could answer all the questions very satisfactorily. Having read a lot of Perry Mason book, I thought we were very smart and you knew where you could avoid something. And by the end of it, when I left, I heard them say that inka warrant of arrest, cancel karo. So that was some saving grace. So that was one, another big thing that I cannot forget. Now we talk of change of names. You know, a lot of people today, no women want to change their name, they retain their maiden name, although in their heart of hearts they're wanting to assume their husband's name, and the name being written in the hotel honeymoon thing as Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so gives you a lot of thrill. But is it easy to change a name? In the army it's not easy. When you're a commissioned officer in the army and you have a parchment given to you by the president of the country and you're a commissioned officer, it's not easy to change a name. You have to give it an application. There's a marriage certificate, there's an affidavit signed by the lawyer, it goes in, and it takes almost a year, almost 2 years for the Gazette notification, government Gazette notification to take place. And then the army will put on a Part 2 order and change the name, and then you are able to change your nameplate. Till then you can't do it. And the army, it is so important to be recognized as the wife of the person you married, because then you are the next of kin. It's not like Mrs. So-and-so, so-and-so. And in all this 1.5 years that it took to change my name, I must have faced many funny situations. You know, we lived in one house, our nameplates were different. I went to attend a course in the Armed Forces Medical College. I filled in that thing and said, Captain Miss Ranjana Malik, marital status, married. Then when my husband, Major Malik, is ringing up the station to ask for Captain Khurana, nobody knew what was happening. So, but once you change your name, then sort of you realize. But I think things haven't changed in spite of all the internet and all your communications now. They still take as long. So these are about some of the incidents I wanted to tell you about, and just a little thing to tell you that I'm one of those officers who was a part of the 1971 war. People ask, you know, I was not a fighting soldier, and my husband was somewhere else, some other border. But I was in the military hospital at Jabalpur, and a whole lot of casualties of the 71 war were brought to Jabalpur in the ambulance train. The train was full of these casualties, and they came to my ward because it was a surgical ward. And every time I met them, and a whole lot of them were from my husband's regiment, and they would look at me and say, "Ma'am Sahib, Sanu Punjab mein ja rahe ho," you know. So, but the rules said that you cannot transfer a case from one command to another command. So I waited, and just then General Bhagat, the most renowned general we have, General Bhagat, he was the Central Army Commander, he came into Jabalpur because all the POWs of the 71 war, including General Niazi and others, they were all housed in the Ordnance School at Jabalpur. So General Bhagat came and he met me. He said, "Aren't you happy that I moved your husband out of this battalion and sent him somewhere else? He didn't take part in this war." So I said, "He's not happy at all. You know, he's not happy. He would have liked to be part of this war." Then he came to the military hospital for a check, for a walk round, and he wanted to see all the war wounded. So when he came into the ward, and he looked at all these people with their legs in plaster and arms in plaster and some wounds, So he looked at them and he said, Sir, Sardar ji, मैं ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕੀ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ? So, General Saab, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਪੰਜਾਬ ਭੇਜ ਦਿਓ. And that was it. You know, that one little thing, and they were all transferred to Punjab. So some happy things happened. So these are some of my instances about the time that I was in the army, which was just 5 years. And I loved every day of my stay in the military or the Army Medical Corps. And I wish I could have continued, only they never posted us together. Now there's such a thing as spouse posting, but in our times, there was no such spouse posting. When my husband asked the medical directorate if we could be posted to Wellington together, the answer that was given was, we are not in favor of posting husband and wife together. अब इसका जवाब दे दिया. Anyway, thank you. That's just some of these snippets about it.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Ma'am, I request you to kindly stay here for a moment. Thank you so much for sharing with us your mesmerizing anecdotes. I would now like to